No one wanted the alien slave, until a human whispered, "You're safe now." Echoes of freedom. The trading block on Vega Prime smelled of industrial lubricant and fear. Beings of all descriptions crowded the marketplace, their voices a discordant symphony of greed and indifference as they bartered for contraband, rare minerals, and living merchandise. Novali huddled in the corner of her containment field, her luminescent antlers dulled by malnutrition and abuse. Once, these crown-like protrusions had shimmered with the colors of her emotions, a trait valued among her people, the Selenians. Now they remained a faint, sickly amber, the color of hopelessness. "Final offering of the day," announced the Morrigan auctioneer, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence. "Selenian female, formerly of the Silver Glade colony." He prodded Novali with an electrostatic wand, but she barely flinched. 5 years of captivity had taught her that resistance only brought more pain. Allegedly educated in xenobiology and stellar navigation, the auctioneer continued, sounding bored. "Starting bid at 500 credits. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. No one bid. "Fine. 300 credits. Silence again. Even at the reduced price, no one wanted her. "100 credits, the auctioneer said through clenched mandibles. "Surely someone needs a cleaner or lab assistant?" "I'll give you 50. The voice came from the back of the crowd. The beings parted, revealing a human male of average height with features that marked him as of Japanese descent. His dark hair was pulled back in a short ponytail, and a faded scar ran from his left temple to his jawline. His clothing was simple, but practical, the attire of someone who lived most of their life on spacecraft. The auctioneer's mandibles clicked in irritation. "Humans, always the bleeding hearts. She's not worth the containment cost at that price." The human approached the platform, credit chip in hand. "You said 100, I countered with 50. Basic negotiation." 75, the auctioneer snapped. "Done." The human transferred the credits without hesitation. A Krovian trader nearby laughed, the sound like stones grinding together. "The human wants a pet, or maybe something more entertaining." "Won't last a week," another added. "That one's been broken too thoroughly." The human ignored them, his attention fixed on Novali. For the first time in years, she lifted her head, curiosity momentarily overwhelming her caution. Humans were uncommon in this sector, and this one wasn't looking at her with either disgust or lust. "Transaction complete," the auctioneer said, deactivating the containment field. "No refunds when she dies on you." Novali didn't move, waiting for the shock collar or neural leash that would force her compliance. Instead, the human knelt down, maintaining a respectful distance. "My name is Takeo Hiroshi," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." Novali stared at him, her large gold-flecked eyes searching for deception. Her slender ears, torn at the tips from past punishments, twitched nervously. "You're free to go wherever you want," Takeo continued. "I can help you if you'd like, or you can stay here on the station." Free. The word meant nothing to her anymore, but something in his voice, a gentleness she'd forgotten existed, made her antlers flicker briefly with a hint of blue. When she didn't move, Takeo simply waited. The crowd began to disperse, losing interest in what they considered a futile gesture. "Water?" he offered, pulling a container from his pack. Novali's throat constricted. Clean water was a luxury she rarely received. Slowly, painfully, she edged forward. Her hand, four-fingered with a pearlescent sheen to the skin, reached out, stopping just short of the container. "It's yours," he said. "Take it." Their fingers brushed as she accepted the water, and she flinched at the contact. But Takeo didn't move away, didn't grab her or assert dominance. He simply remained kneeling, patient and still as she drank. "Agur, have a small ship," he said when she finished. "There's a med unit, food, privacy, or I can take you somewhere else. Your choice." Novali spoke for the first time, her voice like wind through crystal chimes after years of disuse. "Why?" Takeo's expression softened. "Because freedom isn't something that should be bought or sold." He stood slowly, offering his hand. "What's your name?" She hesitated, then whispered, Novali. Well, Novali, he said as she cautiously placed her hand in his. It's good to meet you. As they walked away from the trading block, Novali felt something unfamiliar stirring within her, a fragile, terrifying sensation she couldn't quite identify. It wasn't until they reached the docking bay that she recognized it. Possibility. The hum of the ship's engines created a soothing white noise as Novali sat motionless on the edge of the small bunk. Takeo had called this room hers before leaving, her alone. The door remained unlocked. She'd checked it 3 times already. Freedom felt like a trap. A gentle knock made her antlers flash yellow with alarm. Novali, Takeo's voice came through the door. I've prepared some food if you're hungry. When she didn't respond, the door slid open part way. Takeo stood in the doorway, careful not to enter, a tray balanced in his hands. It's nothing special, he said, setting the tray on a small table near the door. Standard protein, some fruit. The ship's synthesizer isn't great with flavors, but the nutrition is solid. Novali watched him warily. The medical unit, a surprisingly advanced model for a small cargo ship, had treated her immediate injuries earlier. The drone had asked no questions as it mended fractured bones and applied regenerative gel to her wounds. Why am I here? She finally asked. Takeo leaned against the doorframe, maintaining his distance. Because you chose to come. No choice is without purpose, she said, her musical accent making the human words sound sharper. What do you want from me? Nothing, he sighed, running a hand through his hair. Look, I was a combat medic once. Saw too much suffering, couldn't save everyone. Sometimes helping one person is all you can do. His explanation seemed honest yet incomplete. Still, something in his expression appeared genuine. Novali reached for the food, her movement stiff and guarded. We'll reach Themis Station in 4 days, Takeo continued. It's neutral territory, good medical facilities. You can decide your next steps there. When she didn't respond, he added, the ship's AI responds to your voice now. If you need anything, just ask. That night, when the nightmares came as they always did, Novali woke screaming in her native tongue, her antlers blazing red with terror. She expected punishment for the disruption. Instead, the ship's lights gently brightened to a soft glow, and a calm voice asked if she required assistance. Takeo never mentioned her screams the next morning. Instead, he showed her the ship's small navigation system, explaining how to plot courses between star clusters. The wandering star isn't much, he said with a hint of pride, but she's fast and reliable. On the 2nd day, Novali found herself standing in the cargo hold, watching as Takeo organized medical supplies. My people were healers, she said suddenly. We cultivated medicinal plants in the Silver Glade. Takeo glanced up, surprise evident in his expression. It was the first personal information she had shared. I'd like to learn about that someday, he replied simply. They're gone now. She closed her eyes briefly. Our sanctuary was claimed for mining operations. Those who resisted were sold. Takeo's hand stilled. I'm sorry. I was a student, she continued, the words coming easier now. I never finished my training. After a pause, Takeo said, I couldn't save my unit when our transport was hit. 32 people. I was the only survivor. The shared admission hung between them, neither a bond nor a burden, but something in between, a recognition of mutual loss. On the 3rd day, as they navigated an asteroid field, Novali made a decision. I want to help, she said, gesturing to the medical supplies they were transporting. Until I decide where to go next. Takeo nodded, the corner of his mouth lifting slightly. I could use a trained assistant, even one with incomplete training. For the first time in years, Novali felt her antlers shimmer with a faint silver light, the color of cautious hope. Their tentative peace was shattered on the 4th day when proximity alarms blared throughout the ship. Raiders, Takeo explained, grimly as they rushed to the cockpit. Scavengers who prey on small transports. On the view screen, a patched-together vessel twice the size of the wandering star was closing fast. Can we outrun them? Novali asked, her antlers flashing orange. With anxiety. Not a chance, Takeo replied, hands flying over the controls. But we might outsmart them. What followed was a desperate game of cat and mouse through the debris field at the edge of the system. Takeo piloted with surprising skill for a former medic, using the ship's small size to their advantage. But the raiders were persistent. Warning shot grazed their hull, sending Novali sprawling to the deck. They don't want to destroy us, Takeo explained, helping her up. They want the cargo, and you. The realization hit Novali like physical pain. She was still merchandise in the eyes of the galaxy. I won't go back, she whispered, her antlers darkening to deep crimson. I cannot. You won't have to, Takeo promised, his expression hardening. He reached beneath the console and pulled out a small handheld weapon. I'm not much of a fighter anymore, but I won't let them take you. Something shifted in Novali then. Not a sudden burst of courage, but a slow-building resolve. This human, this stranger, was willing to fight for her freedom. Not because she was valuable or useful, but simply because he believed she deserved to be free. And if he believed it, perhaps it was true. I can help, she said, her voice stronger than it had been since her rescue. I may be a healer by training, but all Selenians learn to defend their groves. Together, they prepared for the inevitable boarding. When the raiders breached the airlock, they found not a helpless victim and a solitary pilot, but allies standing together. In the aftermath, as Takeo tended to a wound on his arm, he finally told her the full truth. I buy freedom when I can, he said quietly. I was a prisoner once too after my unit was killed. Sometimes I still hear their voices. Helping others is the only way I've found to quiet them. Novali reached out, no longer hesitant or afraid, and touched his hand. Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me as a person, not property. It wasn't friendship yet, but as the wandering star limped toward Themis Station, something equally precious began to grow between them. Trust. Wayward stars. Themis Station glittered like a jewel against the backdrop of space, its spinning rings, creating artificial gravity for the thousands who called it home. Unlike the sterile efficiency of military outposts or the chaotic sprawl of trade hubs, Themis had been designed with aesthetics in mind. Gardens sprouted between living quarters, and water features recycled the station's purified supply in decorative cascades. But beauty didn't equal welcome, as Novali quickly discovered. We don't want trouble, the Avarian dockmaster said, his feathered crest rising in agitation as he examined their credentials. His gaze lingered on Novali's antlers, which now shimmered with anxious purple hues. Especially not Selenian trouble. She has documentation, Takeo replied evenly, placing a hand on the holstered blaster at his hip, a reminder rather than a threat. And my personal guarantee, the dockmaster's beak clicked in irritation. Your guarantee means nothing, Hiroshi. Not after Callisto. Novali glanced at Takeo, noting how his jaw tightened at the mention of Callisto, but he remained calm. 48 hours, the dockmaster finally conceded. Long enough to resupply and make repairs. Then you're gone. Both of you. As they made their way through the crowded promenade, Novali noticed how beings shifted away from her path, conversations halting as she passed. I bring you trouble, she said softly. Takeo shook his head. Prejudice brings trouble. You're just existing. They found a small repair shop tucked away in the lower levels, run by a grizzled human woman named Jasmine Reed. Her weathered face bore the distinctive radiation scarring of someone who'd spent too long in the asteroid belts without proper shielding. Hiroshi, she greeted them, wiping grease-stained hands on her coveralls. Didn't expect to see you again after that business on Europa. It was a misunderstanding, Takeo replied with a weak smile. Always is with you. Her sharp eyes assessed. Novali. Who's your friend? Novali of Silverglade, Novali answered before Takeo could speak, standing straighter despite her nervousness. I am Takeo's medical assistant. Jasmine raised an eyebrow but nodded. Good to meet you. Takeo needs someone to patch him up when his hero complex gets him into trouble. She turned back to Takeo. What did you do to my ship? Raiders, he explained. Propulsion took a hit and the starboard hull has microfractures. Jasmine whistled low. That'll cost you. I can pay. Not with credits, you can't. Station's low on medical supplies. Fever's been going around the refugee sector. Takeo didn't hesitate. Take what you need from our cargo. The rest we'll sell to cover the difference. Novali's antlers flickered with surprise. Those supplies were valuable, meant for a paying client on Callisto. Jasmine grinned. Same old Takeo, always ready to give the shirt off his back. She nodded, toward a back room. You two can bunk there while I work. Should be safe enough. Later, as they sorted through the medical supplies, Novali finally asked the question that had been bothering her since the docking bay. What happened on Callisto? Takeo's hand stilled. For a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. I was supposed to deliver weapons, he finally said. Found out they were meant for suppressing civilian protests. I delivered medical supplies instead. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Some clients don't appreciate substitutions. Before Novali could respond, a commotion outside drew their attention. Through the grimy window, they watched as a group of beings were escorted through the station. Refugees, their possessions strapped to their backs or clutched in weary arms. The displacement never stops, Takeo murmured. Among the refugees, Novali spotted 2 Selenians, their antlers dulled with exhaustion. Without thinking, she rushed outside. The 2, a male and female, startled when they saw her. Sister, the female whispered in their native tongue, her antlers briefly flashing recognition blue. Lyra? Novali's voice trembled. Lyra of Eastern Meadow? The reunion brought both joy and grief. Lyra and her mate Taryn had escaped the mining company's takeover of another Selenian settlement. They were among the few survivors. The resistance continues, Lyra told her as they shared a meal in Jasmine's cramped back room. Some of our people fight from the shadows, disrupting operations, helping others escape. Takeo listened quietly, understanding little of their rapid chiming language but recognizing the passion behind it. You could come with us, Taryn offered. We're meeting others at Hyperion Outpost. Novali's antlers swirled with conflicting emotions, longing for her people, fear of another capture, and something else when she glanced at Takeo. I need time, she said finally. That night, as she tried to sleep on her narrow cot, she heard hushed voices from the workshop. Don't care what you're paying. It was Jasmine's voice, tight with warning. There's a bounty hunter in the station asking questions about a Selenian female traveling with a human. Specifically you, Takeo. How? We've only been here 12 hours. Someone must have recognized her. Or you. Doesn't matter. Bounty's substantial, enough that someone probably called it in before you even docked. Novali's hearts raced. Her people had too, a physiological quirk that had fascinated her captors. Now both hammered a desperate rhythm in her chest. We'll leave immediately, Takeo was saying. Too late. Security's been doubled at the docks. They're monitoring all departures. Novali didn't wait to hear more. She slipped from her cot and began gathering her few possessions. Takeo found her moments later. You heard. It wasn't a question. I'll go alone, she said, her antlers a determined amber. They want me, not you. That's not happening. His voice was quiet but firm. We're in this together. Why? The question burst from her. Why risk yourself for me? Is it guilt? Penance for those you couldn't save? Takeo flinched as if struck, but met her gaze steadily. Maybe at first. But now? Now it's because I see you, Novali, not as something to save, but as someone worth standing beside. The simple honesty of his words silenced her protests. Jasmine interrupted them, her expression grim. Someone's coming, armed. They moved quickly, positioning themselves behind the workshop's heavy machinery. Takeo passed Novali a small blaster, similar to the one he carried. Set to stun, he whispered. The workshop door slid open, and a massive figure ducked to enter. The Krell bounty hunter stood nearly 7 feet tall, his exoskeletal plates a mottled green-black. 4 arms held various weapons, while his compound eyes scanned the room methodically. "I know you're here, Selenian," he called, his voice like gravel. "And you, Hiroshi. The reward for the girl just doubled. Seems she's more valuable than a common slave." Neither Novali nor Takeo moved. "Did she tell you who she really is?" The bounty hunter continued, moving deeper into the workshop. "The daughter of Elder Sentinel Taslo? The Selenian resistance leader?" Novali's antlers flashed with shock before she could control her reaction. The brief glow gave away their position. The hunter fired, his plasma weapon scorching the metal, where Novali had been a second before. Takeo returned fire, forcing the hunter to duck behind a workbench. "Is it true?" Takeo asked as they scrambled for better cover. "I didn't know," Novali gasped. "My father disappeared before the invasion. I thought him dead." Another blast of plasma cut their conversation short. They were pinned down, outgunned and outmatched. Then unexpectedly a new voice entered the fray. "That's quite enough," Jasmine called from the doorway. She wasn't alone. Behind her stood Lyra and Terran, along with several station workers of various species, all armed. "This isn't your fight," the bounty hunter growled. "Anyone Takeo shields is our concern," a Terran engineer said. "He's saved enough of us over the years." What followed was brief but intense. The bounty hunter, realizing he was outnumbered, attempted to retreat, only to find his ship's access codes mysteriously corrupted. "Station security will be here soon," Jasmine warned after they'd subdued the hunter. "You need to go, now." "How?" Takeo asked. Jasmine's weathered face broke into a sly smile. "Service tunnels. They connect to the maintenance docks. Vanessa has a transport waiting." Novali looked around at these strangers who had risked themselves for her. For them. "Why would you help us?" An older human male stepped forward. 3 years ago, Takeo brought medicine when my granddaughter was dying. Never asked for payment." He nodded respectfully to Takeo. "Some debts can't be measured in credits." As they prepared to leave, Lyra embraced Novali. "Come find us when you can," she whispered. "Your father lives, the resistance grows." Novali's antlers glowed a bright, determined blue. "I will, but first I have my own path to follow." The maintenance dock was deserted except for a single transport ship, smaller than the Wandering Star but sturdy enough for deep space travel. "It's not much," Jasmine said as they prepared to board, "but it'll get you to the outer colonies." "Thank you isn't enough," Takeo told her. "Then don't say it. Just keep doing what you do." Jasmine pressed a data chip into his hand. "Coordinates. For a medical facility on Titan, they always need good medics and don't ask questions about antlered assistants." As the transport cleared the station, Novali watched Themis shrink behind them. For 5 years she had been defined by what had been taken from her freedom, her home, her future. Now, she would define herself by what she chose. "You could go to Hyperion," Takeo said quietly. "Find your father. Join the resistance." Novali turned to him, her antlers glowing with a new color, a rich, deep gold that Selenians reserved for moments of profound certainty. "Someday," she replied. "But right now there are others like me who need help, who need to be seen as people, not property." She hesitated, then reached for his hand. "If you'll have me as a partner, not just an assistant." Takeo's smile was answer enough. As the transport accelerated toward the distant stars, they weren't just fugitives running from a past that had tried to break them. They were wayfarers charting a new course together. On the navigation console, Jasmine's coordinates glowed softly. Titan was just the beginning. Beyond it lay countless worlds, countless beings in need of healing. Both the kind that mended bodies and the kind that restored souls. "Partner," Takeo confirmed, his fingers intertwining with hers. The word contained multitudes. Colleague, friend, protector, and perhaps, someday, something more. Novali's antlers shimmered with all the colors of possibility as the stars streaked. Pest. For the first time since her capture, the future wasn't something to fear. It was something to create. And they would create it one act of freedom at a time.